Hey folks, Alex Wiss from Nousot here today to talk about how we're using GenAI to accelerate migrations to modern data platforms like Databricks. This is going to be just a quick demo and conversation about migrating a sample Snowflake assets to the Databricks environment. I'm just going to walk through a notebook here that we've got and kind of talk through some of the specifics. So this is a demo of our GenAI migration tool. It's something we've written to help us accelerate a lot of parts of the migration process, migrating tables and DDL, views, as well as the assets that are going to be doing the transformation, the business logic, right? Those data pipelines. As I walk through the code, we've just got some setup. You'll see here I'm actually connecting directly to the Snowflake environment in order to grab tables, so I can show you where that conversion is happening. So this is just our convert DDL. You'll see the tables. These are actually getting converted with GenAI. So GenAI is doing the SQL conversion. Typically, the SQL conversion for DDL goes pretty quickly. So you'll see, looks like every table converted successfully. I've got 14 tables converted, 0 errors, each of them converted on the same try. I can also kind of do the testing of data, or testing of those tables. What testing means is we're going to actually copy data into the tables. It looks like our GenAI approach got each of those tables, all the data types correct off the bat. That's great as well. So 14 tries, 14 tables converted, 1 try per table. Where it gets a little bit more interesting is when we actually start to convert things like our transformation logic. So in this particular case, we've got one little sample. It's going to be a sample SQL query. This is a select statement. Is something you might see in an ETL data pipeline in Snowflake, maybe something that's running as part of a dbt workflow, as part of a dbt model. This particular example has a couple of little quirks that are going to prevent it from running directly in Databricks. So one is the try to numeric function. That function doesn't exist in the Databricks runtime that I'm running right now. We'll see what the AI agent decides to do with that. And then there's one other little quirk that we'll see about in a second that usually trips it up as well, although it, as we can see, it has the ability to correct itself and figure those out. So I ran this a few minutes ago. You can see what we've got here is kind of like the reasoning of the AI agent that is doing the conversion. So it's noticing, it looks like it actually realized that the try-cast is not, or try-numeric is not supported in Databricks. It's proactively doing the try-cast function. It's kind of doing explicit casts instead of the colon syntax. Notice the qualify is supported. That's great. A couple of case statements are being preserved. Looks like if I scroll down, so what it's actually doing as part of this is it's running the converted notebook directly in our Databricks environment as a job. So you can see here the initial cut, it created this notebook file, it ran the notebook, and it got an error. That error is kind of the other issue that I alluded to, which is that the alias in this particular case, event TS, isn't supported in our where clause, and it's going to have to be able to figure that out. So as I look to this, it looks like reasoning error message indicates that the column event TS cannot be resolved in the where clause. That's our agent kicking in, realizing the mistake that it made. Here you can see I'm explicitly kind of printing out the tools, the function calls that are being made. It's smart enough to actually correct and say, okay, the original code was saying event TS between these dates, but actually I need to use the original column name xx.created at. It's then choosing to kind of complete its work, rerun the notebook, and you can see after the second try, it looks like it converted successfully. So the power that we're seeing in GenAI here is not only the ability to migrate the code, write the initial code into the Databricks environment. It's syntactically valid within the Databricks environment, but in situations where something is slightly off or slightly different about the environment, or it just makes an early mistake, it has the ability, the intelligence, quote unquote intelligence, to actually correct its own error, understand the environment and correct its own error. So it's an incredibly powerful kind of bit of functionality that allows the automation of the migration to go further beyond just code conversion, but to actually kind of like correction and testing within the environment. Something else that it can do is actually kind of validate that the two tables work. Typically when we do a migration, we want to make sure that the data generated in the original environment is the same as the data generated in the new environment. We do that with validating that the output of that select statement in this case is the same. So we have a little utility for that as well. In this particular case, it looks like the 6 rows were returned successfully from that query in Snowflake. 6 rows were returned successfully in Databricks. It's running in both environments dynamically. It's slamming those 2 data frames together, making sure everything matches successfully, and then it's making sure that those using that as the output criteria. Now, in this particular case, it looks like everything ran successfully first try. What I can do is I can go into my output notebook. This is try to numeric that was created in my Databricks environment. Looks like TriCast worked here. I'm actually going to see if I can break this. So I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to just alias a bad column here as email address. And then I'm also, so it's going to cause the columns not to match. I'm actually going to do something else here. Let me see if I take this down to 2 instead of 7. So now my data is not going to match for any columns or for any records that do return. And hopefully I get a different number of records in my Snowflake query, my SQL query. I'm going to go back and rerun this and see if it's smart enough to figure it out. So while I run that, what this is actually doing is running directly in my Databricks environment. So I've got my job runs here. You can see this is kind of some of the code that's been running. It's running those Databricks notebooks as jobs, so I can actually kind of see the output of them. I can go in here. I can make sure you'll see kind of the same error I got before, a column function. So this is happening dynamically within the Databricks environment. Make sure that it has access to everything the Databricks has. We know that it's going to work because it is doing exactly what a human engineer would typically do in this situation, which is kind of like run and break fix, right? As I go back to that, looks like I've got some output here as my agent is running. I got a mismatch in the data. So if I just kind of show explicitly what's happening here. Oops. I've got, I'm explicitly printing out the difference in my source and target queries. So you can see, looks like my data or my changes did in fact cause a discrepancy, right? There's only 3 records being returned instead of the original 6. And then that email address column is incorrect. Looks like the agent is continuing to iterate on that. And I could probably grab some of the output here. Yep, looks like it correctly realized. Oh, nope, in this particular case, it tried a different column name originally, and then it was incorrect, and so now is updating that column name. It's making changes to the environment directly. Mismatch between source and target tables. There you go. Now it's correctly identifying. Looks like it's resolved a column issue, and now it's moving on to look at resolving the record discrepancy. It's identified the difference in the 2 queries. Realizes that column, the when order placed column, the age needs to be less than or equal to 7 and not less than or equal to 2. Looks like it made that correction in the notebook, reran the notebook, and lo and behold, we've got 6 records in our Snowflake query, 6 records in our Databricks query, and those match successfully. So we've got 100% match, and now we're ready. This query is converted successfully, and we're ready to go live. So great. That was just a quick demo. I'm sure we'll be doing more in this series, but stay tuned.